listening to Inclusive AF with Jackye Clayton and Katee Van Horn.
Recording in progress, Jackye.
Woo-hoo!
We are recording in progress.
Where's some progress at?
Where's some progress at, people? Party people. Hello, Jackye. How are you today?
You know what? I'm doing well. How are you, Katie Sue?
I'm good. I am home from my whirlwind tour, and so I'm feeling good and feeling like a normal human again, because I did catch a little flu bug of some sort, and almost died. Not really, but
travel fever.
Travel extravaganza flu. Travel influenza.
Kind of like Montezuma's Revenge, but different.
Different. Like the fever. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know. I just mostly didn't want to move off the couch, and I didn't want to eat anything, and it wasn't great. It wasn't my best day.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I survived it and lived to tell the tale, and I feel much better today.
I love that.
So, Jackye, hi, this is Katee Van Horn.
And this is Jackye Clayton, and this is the Inclusive AF podcast.
You're damn skippy, Jackye. So hey, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you were alone in the woods, would you rather be alone in the woods with a bear or a man?
A bear.
Tell me why, Jacqueline.
Because number one, because a bear really just wants a sandwich. I can throw the sandwich and we're gonna be fine. Man, you just don't know. I don't know what the trigger is. I feel like I speak bear better.
Right.
I don't know about you.
Same. I think for me, yes, I'm also on the bear side. Thank you very much. I've been watching a lot of TikToks about this, and it is very fascinating, the things that people are coming up with about why. But there was one, and it was literally someone just doing the, I don't want to say the person that you ask questions of, that is right behind me, that knows all the questions, answers to all the questions. It starts with an A. When you ask her a question and she knows the answer, and they ask like, hey, how many people die by bear attack? How many people are attacked by bears? And then same question, how many women are attacked by bears? I think they said people actually on the bear side. How many women are attacked by men and assaulted or murdered? And so the numbers don't lie. So it was very convincing that maybe the best option would be bears. Plus, I think, I think this, I have a bear analogy in one of my trainings, and it's more for, and I probably need to like take it out now because of this recent
It's
TikTok.
not cute anymore.
Well, because the question I always say is like, it's to talk about unconscious bias. And it's like, what do you do if you see a bear in the woods and you know that, you should make noise or make yourself big or play dead or whatever. And Dwight Schrute obviously gave us a lot of indication based on if it was a black bear or a brown bear that, you make noise if it's one or the other. I can't remember which, because Dwight Schrute from The Office is very smart. But I don't know if I can use this one anymore, because I think it will trigger people that they're going to be like, oh, well, are you talking about that? Which I'm not. I'm talking about something different. But anyways,
the question, the question is, would you be safer with a man or a bear? And women overwhelmingly feel like they would be safer with a bear in the forest than a man that they didn't know.
Right.
I'll tell you why I feel that way most recently. I was watching like a 48 Hours, not the Eddie Murphy movie, like on CBS. Because
like a Dateline 48 hours.
Right.
Dateline 48 hours situation. Yeah, I understand. That's right. I'm with you now.
There was a woman who had been murdered like 20 years ago. And the thing that was, they forced some people into falsely confessing. And this was back in the day where they used to say, there's no way you would confess if you didn't do it. There's no way. Now we know that those aren't the cases. That isn't the case. And most organizations have changed the way that they do interrogation these days versus the way that when this happened, like in the 80s. But eventually,
sorry. I want to, no, they haven't.
well, I mean,
they say they have, but they haven't. Sorry. I just
they
want to
do once they get to 48 hours. They've changed
okay.
before
Sorry.
they hit
Thank
record.
you. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
okay.
clarifying.
Yeah. By the time they get to 2020, they said
Over.
they have a flash meeting. You've got 10 minutes.
Yes.
We have done the training.
Disclose what you know, and it's over.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. So the man that they ended up, and they've been going back again, once you get onto the 2020 circuit to redo the DNA to figure out if they can do these crimes or whatever. They found that the person who murdered this woman and raped this woman lived across the street from them. And they were never interrogated in the first place, even though the person lived across the street. And when they asked him why he picked the woman like across the street, he was like, "Oh, I just wanted to have sex with her." They were like, "Oh, well, was it any other reason?" He was like, "Oh yeah, I was just stoned and drunk." That was it. That was the only criteria, was like an insane
Because I wanted to.
sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
In combination with, I guess, they're saying drugs and alcohol, but I think you would have to want to do that before the drugs and alcohol. I can't imagine that automatically just came into being, like, because I've had several beers, and I've never wanted to even go across the parking lot, let alone all the way across the street. Like,
and
those things have never occurred to me.
And I've heard about people who smoked weed. I've never partaken myself because I would never.
Oh, absolutely, you haven't. Because why would you do that?
No.
A good Catholic girl like
yourself.
yourself.
I've heard that it's not a motivating drug. You very much aren't motivated to go do much of anything. To your point, cross the street,
let alone
go do anything bad. No, you mostly just want to sit and relax.
Only thing I want to do, when I've had too many drinks, is like, the worst thing was get some nachos at 7-Eleven. Like, that was like the absolute worst.
Right. Like, eat junk food and watch trash TV. Yeah, I feel you.
And the person had been in jail for 20 years. The guy knew that he did it, never admitted to it. They found him when he was 67 years old, sentenced him to 20 years. The only reason they found him was because of the DNA, and he did confess under different circumstances of interrogation. And the fact that I know, even if I was with a bear, I'm not getting raped by a bear.
No.
Versus a random, "Oh, I just felt like it" thought. Like, I know that doesn't happen to bear.
No.
I would rather, I can't, that's terrifying to think that could cross somebody's mind. I know at the very least that wouldn't happen with a bear.
No. Well, and I would also say, like, your point of, like, the sense of entitlement, I think that's such a theme that I'm seeing throughout so many of these stories recently of people doing bad things to, I mean, we can talk about, what is shaking up the music industry right now, where I almost think it's like, who hasn't done something horrific? And then also, I mean, obviously we know, like, it feels like every top male executive on any large corporation has done something horrific. And obviously we have a presidential candidate that, has been convicted of doing such things, but it's fine. We'll let
It was her fault. Like, if I got attacked by a bear, also, no one would say, "Well, what were you wearing?"
Exactly. Right. Or say, "I'm not sure it really happened. Are you sure it really happened?"
Did you edge it on? Did you coerce the bear in any way?
Yes. Or, "How many drinks did you have, Jackie? How many of those Coronas did you hit up?" It's mostly blame it on the Coronas. And I know we're making light of something, and it's really not a light topic in any way, shape, or form, but it is fascinating to see the response and the kind of pushback from some men of, "Oh, this is a ridiculous argument," but then the ones that are really like hurt my heart are the ones that are like asking a dad who has a little girl,
Mm-hmm.
would you feel safer with them being alone in the woods with a man you don't know or with a bear? And the dad literally like, oh, well, yeah, the bear for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh my, like how like unsettling that is and disturbing that this is where we're at. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of, because I've been on a lot of TikTok because I've been traveling and like watching just silly stuff at night, trying to fall asleep when I'm in some random time zone I don't know. Um, like these men that are like posting these videos about like, oh, but if a woman said like dating coach type things, and they're like, what are you talking about? They're just stupid people. Um, and those ones are also getting to me like, oh, if she says no, that's not really what she means. You need to tell her why
Mm-hmm.
she should date you. And you're like, or leave the woman alone because she's not interested. So maybe just leave her alone is the answer to this. Um,
How much do you understand the future of finance? I'm Jim Roos, a top 10 banking influencer and host of the podcast Banking Transformed, where we dive deeply into the rapidly evolving world of banking and financial technology. Join me as I interview industry experts, thought leaders, and innovators as they unravel the latest banking trends, disruptions, and game-changing technologies reshaping the world of finance. Redefine your understanding of the banking ecosystem. Subscribe now to Banking Transformed, available wherever you get your podcast and now available on YouTube.
okay, so do you want to talk about, I know we just talked about a topic. Do you want to talk about some of the bans that have now occurred? I do not, so, Kansas, one of the Board of Educations there has now adopted an anti-DEI policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something that we're going to see in a few other places, just because this, seems to be the way that this is going, is that, once one state does it, other states do as well. But asking them, do like not being able to ask them what their diversity beliefs are, or if they believe in diversity, or if they are opposed to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. It's a very random, like I don't even know how to read some of these things because it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if you've looked at it at all, but
Mm-hmm.
any thoughts on kind of how these schools are doing this?
Yeah, it's gonna come back. We talked a little bit about the right side of history. We hear that being thrown around a lot, but at the end of the day, what is gonna happen is as as things progress, we will see lawsuits that come in a different direction, and people are going to be confused when they realize that like they're not protected
Mm-hmm.
for those things. And what will happen is people suing because of being discriminated against, because of having a disability or having something that doesn't seem to relate. And then people are going to try to pay more attention to it. That's the way that it always occurs. Something
Mm-hmm.
horrible is going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the unfortunate part, because there are so many people that, because we're not telling them how these things occur and they're not getting exposed to these things, don't realize that if history does repeat itself, you ignoring it does not make it better. It's not gonna work for you, and it doesn't end up on your side,
Mm-hmm.
and something horrific is going to happen.
Right.
And
And I guess it's weird to me, like you have so many universities specifically that have morality clauses. I actually just was facilitating a training a few weeks ago, and one of the folks mentioned something about a morality clause. And I was like, well, yeah, that's definitely something. And it's one of the universities here in Arizona. And I know exactly what they were referring to because they are a Christian university. And so they were talking about they have um they do not they their non-discrimination language does not include transgender people. So they, not that they are, but
What does
you
that
are,
mean?
meaning that like non-discrimination clauses usually include folks that are from marginalized groups. So age, all of the things that like the
Right, but I'm saying
EEOC
you're
has.
allowed to discriminate against trans people, basically.
Correct. Yes. So, and it's they have said we don't like acknowledge that, and it's basically everyone in the LGBTQ community that they're really not protecting. And so it was one of those things like, yes, there's a morality clause, and so I guess that is what they're trying to push here. But again, it goes back to that's a Christian university, so you can say religious exemption, but then there's also the fact that I guess I don't understand how just being a decent human means that you're adopting some rant, like weird left woke DEI policy. It's like, no, just be kind and be a good human to other people in this world. Like that's what should be happening. But you're making it into like, oh, because we have this language around inclusion and being kind to everyone and including everyone, that means we're woke. Like I don't get it, that like people are trying to somehow, again, it's this twisting of what the intention is of the
Well,
language.
it's the same
of these
reason why we
policies.
hate Russians and people from China, because they're evil. All of them, every single one of them. And that's all you need to know. Where it's like, okay, all of them? Yes. And so that's the
Yeah.
narrative where it changed, where it's like, wait, not all of them. We changed it to not all of them. Be sure that you actually get to know and treat everything on an individual basis. And then the government is saying, no, everyone. Like that's how you have to look at it, where I can understand, for example, here's the examples that I look at, like breast milk versus cow's milk, right? Like there are people when they were starting to do like formula that like people couldn't breastfeed, so then they're like giving people cow's milk, but it's not the same, and then babies are dying, and so it's like, what are you doing? Like you have to explain those things to people. They really don't see. Why would anybody do that? It takes kids dying in order for people to see, no, really people are doing that. And so I don't think a lot of these anti DEIB is against DEIB as it stands. I think a lot of these things, it's like, why are we focusing on that? It doesn't make sense to me because these things don't occur in my purview, right? So that's why it's like why you have to explain to people like, no, this is a non-safe situation. Like why they take parents to jail because they prayed over a child who ends up dying because they, according to their religion, don't go to doctors or whatever. Like that's ridiculous. So we hold people accountable. But they don't recognize all of these laws that are in place is because people left to their own devices will not heed the warning. It's why we have a seatbelt. We literally have a law that tells people to put their seatbelt on. How stupid is that? We could say, you know what? I'm not making a law to do that. You can do whatever you want. It's your own freedom. Do whatever you want. And then people are dying and was like, should have wore your seatbelt.
Right.
So we're at that stage where it's like helmet laws. We have seatbelt laws, but we don't have helmet laws. It's because there's not as many people dying. So if you look at it from there's not as many people being hurt, historically, it makes sense that they're like, well, those things aren't important until the next 5 years, when all of these things are going against the way from learning from a historical place. I can make up the rules to be in my favor if I have that amount of power, and there's nothing you can do about it because we don't have to understand or recognize other people that are different than me. Like,
It's mind-boggling.
I could say, oh, I run TA, I'm only going to hire Black people because they're the only people I feel safe around. And you would think that I was crazy.
Well,
versus
and there's
organizations do that every day.
And there's a law against that,
there
right?
has to be, because we tried. This is something that will blow your mind. So I was swimming at the YMCA. I love the YMCA. I get to meet my neighbors. I get to watch, eat popcorn, have snacks, hang out with the people. I'm swimming at the YMCA. I'm telling somebody what I do for a living. He's a seasoned gentleman, and he says, "Oh yeah, I won't hire veterans." He owns country clubs. He throughout his tenure, he's like, "I will never hire a veteran because they're too angry." I haven't heard anybody discriminate against veterans in a really, really, really long time. And he was like, "No, I won't." And I was like stunned, and I'm like, whoa, there are people who still believe that, even though there aren't a whole lot of veterans as compared to like the 80s, and it still has to be there because this guy is flat out wasn't even embarrassed or ashamed at all of saying that he wouldn't hire people that were veterans. It doesn't make sense. So there's people in government that are like, why are we saying that? We're trying to give people a benefit. Why can't we just treat everybody the same? It's the same people that say, why don't you just pick yourself up from your bootstraps? And I have to explain to you, I have no boots. Like, it's that same process of understanding. And like the same thing with abortion laws, where people are going to have to start dying in order for people to make a difference. And I just don't understand how people can just, without knowing the truth of any situation, just make blanketed laws when you're trying to help people, why people would be against helping other people.
Right. But and I think we all had this at some point coming up in a work environment, and this is not even the same thing. It's how maybe folks can relate is, I'm sure, it's like joining a fraternity or a sorority where they have like the hazing, and now they've changed that, but they had the hazing and it was like, well, they have to go through this. I had to go through it, so they have to go through it too to be a member of this fraternity or sorority. And at work, I'm sure we've all had anyone who's been in a work environment for any length of time, that person that you worked with that was like, oh, well, it was hard for me, so it has to be hard for everyone else behind me, because if I had to go through this hard thing, they should too. And you're like, but why? Like, why would we make it hard for anyone? Like, if we can make it easier, why wouldn't we? Like, there's so many pieces to this that I just don't, it doesn't make sense, but we continue to do it and we continue to harm. And it's like, to what end? So we're all harmed. So we all have these issues.
You've been traveling a lot, and I was talking to my executive producer about your level of travel, and it was like, well, how does Katee feel? Like, is she okay? Does she feel safe? And I'm like, the scariest place on the planet is the United States of America.
Oh, absolutely.
Specifically, Texas, Arizona, Florida. Like, so much safer in Germany than she is right there in fucking Phoenix.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me?
It's funny that you say that, because at one point I walked to dinner one of the nights while I was in Cologne, Germany, and I was by myself, and there was no, like, and I had my laptop like in my arm because I was like working on some stuff, and it was like no concern, no thought. I was in Paris a few weeks ago, and I'm walking through the rain in the dark by myself, and I was like, no big deal. Don't tell my mom any of these stories, by the way.
I won't.
Yeah,
well, and in the meantime, I'm
nervous.
At Walgreens, and I'm afraid to leave my laptop in the car.
Well, right. And that's the thing. I'm like, I was in downtown Phoenix. We were at a comedy show, and I, like, on the way back, I'm like to my sisters, like, you're not walking to the car by yourself. Like, we're walking you to your car, because God only knows what can happen in the 100 yards, not even 100, it was more than 100 yards, but like in the around the corner down the road a little bit, because it's not safe here.
It goes back to the bear.
It goes back to the bear,
because you're not, it's like, I'm safer with a bunch of bears than I am with a bunch of politicians, because a bear, like, they're looking at the great equalizer. Like, I can respect a mom bear who doesn't want their kids to be hurt, or who's just trying to feed their family.
right?
Like, I'm not saying it would be pleasant. I'm not saying whatever, but guess what? A bear's not going to say, lay back and enjoy it, and it'll be over with soon.
Yep. Right.
No, they not. I mean, like, or
they might say that while they're eating
fun.
your face. They might say that while they're eating you.
Well, I would think I'm beautiful, and my face will probably,
they're like, I'm hungry. Give me all the food.
Right. We can say that. All right. And so it's like, the thing is like, just because you have thumbs doesn't mean that you have a better case of morals than some of the mammals. And I do think about that part a lot, about women in general more, or people who have children more than people who don't have children, specifically about, if you study how these groups work, the only one that has, like, the one that has a major jack up situation are humans versus penguins. Like, penguins are like, you know what? You're going to take that baby. I'll be right back because you ain't going to bring enough food. I know you're not.
Right.
So I'm going to go take care of it myself. Or those birds that are like, we don't even need a man. Watch this. I will help you with that baby.
Yes.
Right? All of these different groups. But let the, like, male bear get inside. It becomes a whole different. They're off fighting in the woods, like, trying to do all these things to attract. Like, the fact that it's funny, like, human women wear makeup. In the animal kingdom, it is the male animal that is trying to do the equivalency is of the pick-me class.
Yes. Yes.
Every single one.
Do you love news about LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, and just about every other recruitment tech company out there?
Hell yeah. I'm Chad.
I'm Cheese.
We're the Chad and Cheese Podcast.
All the latest recruiting news and insights are on our show.
Dripping in snark and attitude.
Subscribe today wherever you listen to your podcasts. We out.
I would like to stop wearing makeup if that's possible. Thank you. That'd be great.
You can.
Thank you.
You can, absolutely.
Today.
Yeah. I pretty much don't have makeup on ever. Look.
Well, yeah, I know. Neither do I anymore. I like mascara. Yeah. Sorry, I digress. Yeah, I think there's also a piece to this, and it goes, like you were talking about the show of the man who was like, oh, she was across the street and I wanted to, so I did.
Right.
And like, I think that's the other part, is we're hearing so many of these stories that are so disturbing on every level about just that piece of, like, men that are like, oh, well, she was at my house and she was asking for it. Or this, I don't know if you heard about this one where the guy put something into these smoothies that he made for his daughter and her friends at a sleepover. They were having like a slumber party at his house, and he put something in it, and one of the girls was like, this doesn't taste right, and like texted the mom like, I don't feel safe, kind of thing. Thank goodness. Like, you can't let your kids go have a freaking sleepover. Like, nothing is safe, nothing is sacred. And
listen,
and what are these, what is wrong with you, sir? Like, seriously,
I don't think people recognize it. And just like you would like to think that not everybody has that potential, but yet all of us know a woman who has been sexually assaulted. Yep. And yet you talk to men, you would act like they have absolutely no idea that math doesn't math.
Right.
The other situation that happened this past week that was, like, disturbing, there was a case of a gentleman who thought he was going to meet two girls for sex, ages 7 and 11. He pulled out a gun, and when he went and saw them, he was taken down by the police. When they figured out who he was, he's a 30-year veteran with the United States Marine Corps as a doctor. And the reason he said that the reason that he had said online why he was going to meet young children was because his wife wasn't having sex with him anymore. So that made sense for him to have sex with a 7 and an 11-year-old.
Like, again, back to that math doesn't
like
matter.
How does that possibly? There's no bear looking for a 7-year-old.
No.
That can justify it. Like, I don't want anybody looking at me because they think that their wife isn't looking at them, gives them carte blanche to treat anybody any kind of way or against any kind of law and act any kind. And those same people, there's a version of that. It's just not that far of a stretch of justification on how we treat people and who we listen to and what we believe. And that's what's disturbing, especially in these, like, you know, when you look at a lot of people who agree. I just don't know when there's going to be a shift in power at some point on who is helping making these laws. There has to be some kind of sense and common sense at some point. But we are not in the point in the United States where we have collective reasoning. We're just not. And those days have gone, and it is so unfortunate that and embarrassing. Like, and I think this causes a lot of stress, especially people from underrepresented groups, because it's always been like, I'm standing on like the shoulders of my ancestors. And it's like so embarrassing to see how far back we went, we've gone, we've come. It's embarrassing.
Right. And there's literally like the thought I always have is like, when are all, like, this is somewhat this is a weird thought, but it's like that, when are all these old white men going to die off so that we can actually like make changes that we need to make changes, like what changes we need. But there's like the next generation, but it also harkens back to what you just said of people from, you know, marginalized, underrepresented groups, historically destroyed groups, that it is like, no, but how much longer do we have to wait? Seriously.
Right. And the other thing is, I don't know, they just had the most recently, maybe we should talk about this next week. There's a movie that had recently come out that was like really highly sexualized, showing, has Zendaya in it, talking about tennis.
Yes.
What it is.
Yeah.
And so the word on the street is, ooh, people are all into this naughty movie, even though it's not really that naughty. But they were like, gone have been the days of, they're like, we've gone to this asexual like existence where people don't want people to be treated bad, over sexualized. And now they're like, oh, is this a sign of people being okay? And I just wonder the relationship, what we're going to see as a relationship to not caring about people, anti-DEI laws, not having the rights to your own body, being forced to have children, and then rape and sexualizing people, and the type of things that people look for entertainment as, and what we allow, what behavior we allow, and that we're not addressing being woke enough to not rape or sexually assault someone, or to give people the own autonomy of their bodies. There is, I don't care what you say, there's a direct correlation. I'm not an expert, don't have to be. Because I think that's just very unironic.
So what you're telling me.
Is this earth shattering? Wait, did everyone be seated?
I'm going to say something, you're going to punch me. I might not say this because you're going to punch me if I do. Remember like back in the 80s, and I think it was like Tipper Gore or one of them that was like going against
Tipper Gore.
NWA. Was it Tipper Gore? Okay. And like it was like NWA and like death metal bands, like all of that, like she was against all of it. And it was like, oh, well, this is going to start the downfall of the world. Now, that was a minute ago. So do you think that actually started this entire thing? Is that like Tipper Gore was right, is what I just heard you say, Jackye?
No, what I'm saying is there's a direct correlation, because which came first? NWA didn't come first.
Okay.
Saying, oh, we don't care about the rights to your own bodies, and we can make laws to make the decision for you, and you can discriminate against people, causes this, versus the opposite of that. And I will punch you in the throat the next time I see you. Okay,
I just wanted, I'm just checking. I just want, and it wasn't, she was against heavy metal. NWA was more just
in general.
Well, the police did not appreciate some of their musical
They didn't like Public Enemy. They didn't like lots of things in the 80s.
F the Police didn't resonate with them. It was weird.
Resonated with me oddly. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Call me, yeah.
And again, I joke, but I don't mean, like, I do think there's absolutely, but I will say about that movie, just sidebar real quick.
Yeah.
I actually randomly read that book
Yeah.
because, I like the smut novels.
You do.
And I read that like 6 months ago. And then I saw the, like, oh, Zendaya's in this movie. And then it was like this, like during the preview, I was like, oh my God, this is,
Did it ruin it for you?
I was laughing because I was like, how the heck are they going to do this and not have this be like a XXX,
Kind of like gray, like shade, whatever, the gray shades, whatever.
50 Shades of Grey. Oh no, this is like 5
It's
steps
naughty.
past that. Oh, 5 steps past that. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot going on there.
See,
So they have to pull back. They can't. And plus, like, it literally would be a porno if then.
that's what people were saying. You're gonna have to watch it anyway. And even though people said it's rough,
I'm
but
sure-
it's not.
I'm sure it's silly. And the other part is it's a tennis move. I'm not much of a tennis fan. So
yeah, which is
and that's what also kind of made it funny to me, because I was like, they're taking a sport that like is not known for like the hyper masculinity,
right.
and they are total athletes, to be very clear, but I was like, it's an interesting, like, this is where they set it, but I guess it made sense because you had both genders, or you had female and male represented there. But anyways, all right, Jackye, I hate to say this, but I have to go to a
I
meeting.
know, same.
And being an adult, folks, just FYI, we kind of had a catch up before this because I had to tell Jackye everything, and Jackye had to tell me everything because one of her children is featured in a very amazing magazine. It's a print ad.
Yeah, they're an international supermodel.
International.
What are we going to do about that?
NBD kids. international ear model, to be clear.
Ear. That's right.
Supermodel ear supermodel. All right, I gotta go, folks. Thank you for joining us. This is Katee Van Horn.
And this is Jackye Clayton. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I want to tell you about my podcast called Can I Offer You Some Feedback? I'm a business consultant and executive coach with over 20 years experience in change management, leadership development, and naturally providing feedback to high performers. My podcast is for those of you who have a complicated relationship with feedback, whether giving, receiving, avoiding, or seeking. Feedback is essential for our development. In each episode, you'll hear from real people across industries with their ideas, perspectives, and best practices on feedback. I'll also be sharing business bites with you, simple explanations of organizational tools, management techniques, and leadership philosophies that will help you and your businesses thrive. You can listen to Can I Offer You Some Feedback on your favorite podcast app, or learn more at evergreenpodcasts.com.